Hey, welcome
How we
back
doing,
to another
guys?
episode of Imagine More. Caught us off guard there, the impromptu intro. All right, so how you guys been? I know it's been roughly around 2 weeks since we last met with you guys, and we have a lot to go over. I mean, really, last week's the debate, right, Seth?
Yeah, we had the debate in the last week. How's my audio sounding?
Sounds great.
Okay,
I
good,
mean,
good.
yeah. So yeah, last week, well, the week prior to last, which is another way of saying 2 weeks ago, Seth had some mic issues, but he sounds great today. And so we're probably gonna double back on a lot of stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago, and we also have other topics to talk about now that are very important. I think the so Seth, how you been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Same old, same old. Just like the rest of the election season so far, it's been eventful. But
Yeah,
like each thing that happens becomes less interesting because because of how many things are happening.
yeah, right. It's like the turnover right now is like insane. Like the media coverage is like it's like turning. It's like every 2 days there's something new that's happening right now.
Yeah, the 2 hour news story or whatever.
Yeah, it's becoming insane. Yeah, man. So we have to get through a lot, and we have to backtrack a lot. Like especially the debate. Man, I remember 2 weeks ago I kind of said that I think that um, Vice President Harris has to come out strong, so shows that she belongs on the stage. I think
Yeah,
she
she
did.
definitely.
Yeah, right. She looked like she belonged, and that was important. You know, she did not give that vibe like I'm an inexperienced person.
Yeah,
She understood issues. She articulated herself. She was able to she was able to share a vision, which is important in those debates, and I think she did a great job. Now, President Trump, on the other hand, man, he's gonna have the worst performance, the most surprisingly uh, worst performance I've ever seen. I mean, this guy's been on the debate stage for at least 3 years.
yeah.
Yeah, 3 years debating. Like he's has more debate than someone like studying public speaking. Like this guy's constantly.
Especially at like a big stage, like certain senators they do debates that nobody really watches, stuff like that with their
Yeah,
opponents. But no, I mean I don't know how great he really looked the prior debate against Biden because everybody was focused on Biden. But the, you would have thought the debate would have been focused on Kamala Harris because she's the new candidate and they hadn't seen it. But clearly, the entirety of the debate was pretty focused on Donald Trump, and that's because he fell into all her for traps to control
yeah,
the message, control the debate, control the narrative of the debate, and it went
yeah,
perfectly for her.
yeah. I mean, it just seemed like he was falling for traps, and he couldn't set one up for himself. It was like, man, she knew everything he was about to say. It almost looked like, and he looked like he didn't know what she was going to say,
Yeah,
which was very surprising.
it's kind of funny watching conservatives react because you can tell they're never going to admit the Democrats did good, but you can tell by the way that they react whether or not they did because
Yeah,
they would have been all like, I don't actually know how they differently they would have acted if they had won, but the fact that they lost so badly at this debate and they're like just clinging to they're like, oh, Kamala Harris, she has the earpiece, she must have had
the
lines
earring.
fed to her. Oh, she's a sorority sister with the debate person who went
Yeah,
to a college in New York 12 years after Kamala Harris, even though Kamala Harris
yeah,
went to college in California. Yeah, they're
yeah,
sorority sisters because they're both Alpha Kappa, whatever the hell. Yeah,
yeah.
okay. They think that they're
Exactly.
they. My brother, I heard from him that they fed her debate lines. They fed her lines about immigration. What is your immigration policy? Who would have known? Oh, like all the questions were very generic political presidential questions. that
Yeah.
anybody should have had prepared. And Trump clearly just was relying on the fact that he won the last debate. He thinks he's top shit, so he just went out there and just assumed he could win the debate. And he assumed
Yeah.
wrong because he didn't plan. They didn't have any sort of the team didn't come up with a strategy the same way Kamala Harris is clearly. They just thought of what are all Trump's weaknesses and how can we get him to fall into
Yep.
falling off of his own message, essentially. He had to
Yeah.
defend himself in his crowd size instead of talking about rhetoric.
Yeah. It's crowd size.
Well, that's what makes it even that's what means even more to him now. Like he always complained about his, or talked about his crowd size, bragged about it. But now that Obama made that clear gesture and everybody knows what that means, Trump knew what he
Yeah.
meant. He's stupid, but he's not that stupid. Like so,
Yeah, man. That's funny, and it's funny as stick too. And like
yeah,
he talked about his, they talked about his crowd sizes. He was losing so bad. He had to a point where he had to just say anything or anything to possibly kind of reel it back in. And then it brings
yeah,
up to the most famous, what's been viral for the last 2 weeks, the Haitian migrants and the cats and dogs.
yeah.
And it's been
They're
so
eating their
super viral.
pets.
Huh?
Trump just being
Yeah,
like he's eating their pets.
yeah. It started with this guy, JD Vance, which by the way is the worst vice president selection since I think Sarah Palin was a better vice president selection.
I
Like JD
agree. She
Vance is
was
literally is the worst vice president selection ever made in U.S. history. I've never seen a vice president go on stage, goes on a national, well, I say a stage, I mean national outlet, and literally says, "I made up a story so that people can pay attention to me." Like, who does that and who says that? It's like this guy is by far the worst VP selection that Trump could have ever did, and it's like it's gonna shoot him in the foot because this guy, you could tell he's a rookie. You can tell he doesn't know he hasn't been on the national stage before, and it looks like Trump is 70. I don't know how old he is. I think like 76,
78, I think.
78. And you're gonna
Yeah.
tell me you're gonna put the hands in JD Vance? This guy clearly
No,
doesn't
I
even know
feel
what
like
he's.
JD Vance has the same weaknesses as Trump too.
It's
Like I
not
feel like
even.
no, just like
Good.
his emotional, he can't help but like defend his like insecurities kind of thing. Like I think the Haitian migrant, the whole thing. Well, we know originated on 4chan with some like neo-Nazi group,
Yeah,
but we know that JD Vance started pushing that narrative because he was getting relentlessly bullied for the couch thing.
yeah,
And he knew that it was a lie, and he knew that we knew it was a lie. So he's like, what can I do to just make up a story to change the narrative? And instead of something which we did, which is humiliate one person, he created a lie about an entire ethnic background. Like every single Haitian person is uh, I don't know,
yeah.
because
He was just saying.
they're legal migrants too. So it's not even about illegal people. He just has a problem with Haitian people, clearly.
Yeah, and it was clearly. And what's funny about it was just like it totally backfired because everyone was like, it was like this thing where it's like, bro, I don't know. I kind of felt, because my parents they have Haitian heritage, so I kind of felt great because as an American people, I felt like we all looked at him and like, dude, you're like a racist,
Yeah.
and it was like I was like looking at it from. It was funny. I was looking at it from. I was really upset when this first happened. I was like, man, I can't believe this guy is on the presidential stage talking like like that. And then I looked at some Trump supporters. Even Trump supporters are like, yeah, I don't know what that came from. That clearly that's not
Yeah.
true.
The people who weren't
And
terminally online and didn't hear the JD Vance tweeting about it before the debate just heard Trump be like, and the migrants are eating your pets. And that just sounds absolutely absurd because it is absurd.
it was
Everything we,
absurd. Even
everything
but
we
I'm just
know
saying
about
his.
the reasons.
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying his supporters even said that it was absurd. They were like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Trump because of this reason, and not because of what he just said. Because it's obviously idiotic. No one's eating dogs and cats, you know.
I mean,
But
all the examples they have are like, oh, there's a picture of a black guy. He's carrying a goose. And apparently, he's just clearing like roadkill off the side of the road, and that's a Haitian migrant. And then there's the thing that actually started is this some lady. She's African American, but she's an American citizen.
yeah,
She lives in Canton, Ohio, which is nowhere near Springfield, and she just like killed a
yeah,
cat or something. So and that's
yeah. That was on
Haitian migrant
TikTok. Yeah,
killing cats. So they just are completely. It's so far from the truth that
yeah, it's terrible.
they're really exposing their internal racism.
Yeah, it's terrible, right? So I just thought that was hilarious that how bad that backfired on him, and
Yeah.
and that's how bad, that's how low Trump had to go in the debate. He literally had to say something his crazy quack VP was putting out there, and he had to say something. He was like, "Yeah, the migrants are eating the dogs and cats," and it
Well,
was like,
I don't
"What?"
think he said it because JD Vance said it. I think he just believes it. Did you hear how he responded when the guy corrected him? He said like, "We talked to the mayor, we talked to the city councilor or whatever, and they said it's all untrue." He's like, "But I saw the guy on TV." He's like, "The guy on TV said it was true." Like he sounded so out of touch, like such an old man screaming
Yeah,
from his "Get off my lawn!
get
I
off my
saw it
lawn,
on
shit
the
moment.
news." Yeah,
Yeah,
you realize he's just another old person, old like Republican voter, just like the rest of them, except he actually has people listen to what he says. Like he's just like the rest of them, absorbing the media, being told whatever the TV says, whatever
yeah,
confirms their preconceived notions.
it's great. You're right. It's 100% like it was insane. I just don't. I That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. He like
I
literally
think that
lost his mind.
there's a poll like 24% of Americans believe that the lie.
Really,
Yeah,
24%.
but
That
think
makes
that's
sense.
like it's like
That makes
half the
sense.
Republicans, right?
No, because I mean, Trump voters are about 35% are
Yeah.
those people, and if he got 24%, that means 10% of his voters thought that was a quack thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. But he really looked bad, and I
Yeah.
mean, literally, he's been having a bad 2 weeks. Like literally, I think I just looked at a recent
His
poll that
polling
it shows.
numbers have not reflected that though, unfortunately.
No, there's polls out right now. Fox News poll that have him down by 3 points.
No, definitely he's still down, but like this isn't the worst he's fallen behind Harris by. Like I feel like he kind of
Yeah,
rebounded a little bit, and
really.
we're still waiting to see how this affects everything. No, because she's definitely growing, but like in certain states, it's all over the place. This
Hmm.
election doesn't matter how many total voters support Harris or support Trump. It depends on each individual state. Because there was what 10,000 total people that the 2020 election was decided by between the different states. You know what I mean? In certain
Yeah,
precincts. So at the
it's
end of
gonna
the
be a
day,
close election.
yeah, it's gonna be much closer than the electoral vote, which Harris is almost guaranteed to win at this point.
Yeah, she should. I mean, I don't. I always worry about predictions with the Trump people because there's a lot of Trump fans who would never publicly say that. They don't do it, and so I always worry about that.
The
Um,
interesting thing is though, Trump seems to be still one of the highest performing Republicans, like nationwide. Like his mega people, the people in the same beliefs as him that aren't Trump, all do horribly. He's the only one that can pull off mega Trumpism in most of the country. For example,
well, yeah,
I mean, in deep red places for sure, but like he is doing pretty good in Arizona and Nevada, states like these. But these are states where they're either Senate or gubernatorial candidate. They're Kerry Lake, or they're, I can't remember his name, but this one veteran in Nevada, super far right. All these sort of situations are weighted towards Democrats like 10, 12, 15%.
hmm,
Yet they believe the same thing as Trump, and Trump is still on par with the Democrats. So I really think Trumpism lives and dies with Trump. Not entirely, but the power it has over the Republicans.
Yep. I mean, you're right. I mean, he can sway them left or right. But the problem that kind of grip that he has with the Republican Party, if he loses this election, he set that party back like 20 years.
I agree.
Like
It's
that
kind of
party,
like if Harris wins, I think it would be like when Reagan won in 1980.
yeah,
Like not necessarily the win percentage or whatever, but the fact that Democrats didn't win for like 12 years after that
yeah,
until they really, really moderated. Democrats had to moderate and completely shift their agenda to match the trickle down economics of the Reagan era. So Bill
yeah,
Clinton's super centrist, charismatic guy who happened to win in a 3-person race.
yeah,
So if they had gone head to head, theoretically, he probably still could have won. But Bush was an incumbent. He wasn't unpopular necessarily.
mm,
And Ross Perot was like a center right kind of independent candidate. So it was really 3 center right candidates who ran for office in 1994. So if you see how that happened after the Reagan era, after a party completely unable to compete against the other party,
yeah,
we could see realistically, the U.S. Republican Party in 10 years or so be shifting so much towards the center that they're more like the Conservative Party in Canada, who they support like gay rights. Some of
mm,
them some of them are cool with abortion rights. Some of them are pro life. Somewhat acknowledgement of there's environmental things to do, but maybe more business friendly regulations. We're okay with Medicare, Medicaid, but maybe not expand too much. You know what I mean? They're more like
yeah,
actual embodying of the word conservative. Like let's stick with what works, and instead of like this reactionary, performative culture war party of cultist. You know what I mean? Like it's not at all comparable to anywhere else in the world.
no, not at all. I mean, I don't know if they can go moderate because I don't know if they can get out of their primary being a moderate. I mean,
Well,
I understand them like
I
they've
think after they lose a few cycles in a row, that they will like, all right, we can't keep doing this. Once it's not Trump, they're not gonna stick with the
well
far
they've
right.
lost like this is like they've lost 2 cycles already,
Yeah, so don't you
right?
think at some point they're gonna give up with that?
Well, well,
Some of
I
them
think
will.
this will be another coffin this cycle. If they lose this one, that's another coffin. It's like, well, now we need to move back either to the moderate side or, like you were saying, I mean, they can't be liberals to
I
begin
mean,
with.
they're not going to be liberal Republicans. You know what I mean? But they could rebrand as like Reagan Republicans, which Reagan was not a moderate, but on certain like culture issues, Reagan was pretty moderate. And I think that a lot of Reagan supporters have been like big Reagan people, like I like Reagan, but I can't stand Trump. That's becoming a new shift in the Republican Party. It's kind of like the Nikki Haley wing. And if you saw, I mean, she was getting like 35%, while Trump got 65 or whatever. But like
Yeah,
that's a reasonable portion of the Republican Party that could peel off if another 15% were to like kind of like I prefer winning to Trumpism. I like some of his things, but I prefer to win. If
yeah,
he lost 15%, then that's a new Republican Party again. They go
yeah,
back to some sort of fiscal conservatism or, you know, whatever works electorally. I think I tweeted it. If there was a center right party, like they were moderate on social issues, like they were chill about gay people, chill about weed, chill about abortion rights, but they were like economically conservative and capitalist and talked about taxes. They were somewhat normal about if they just shaved off all the radical stuff, they would win like 60% in the US. That party would win every election.
yeah,
Just the amount, like people in California, people that I know would vote for them, just because you know what I mean. Like it would be, there's such a large group of people who would prefer anything other than Republicans or Democrats, and I'm not one of them. But
yeah,
it's definitely something to consider in the upcoming era of politics we're about to go into, because this is unprecedented times. This is like a new shift of they always talk about like the different party systems, Like there was the Whigs and the Republicans and the Democratic Republicans and the different
Yeah.
kinds. They talk about the party switch between the Northern Southern Democrats, that kind of stuff, Dixiecrats. This is a
Yeah.
new party switch. We're completely realigning as a country.
So what do you think about the Democrats? How do we counteract that? Do you think we stay? Because right now the parties become progressive, moderates. It's not really conservative Democrats anymore, and the
There are
Democrats.
definitely conservative Democrats now, like
Like
more than
who?
ever. But
Really?
they're not like Democrats. Democrats. They're gonna vote for the Democrats. Like there's like so many people, random people I talk to, they're literally just Republicans and say like I had this lady I was talking to at the bar the other day, like one of my
Yeah.
customers, and
Uh-huh.
she was having all these conversations. She'd be like, Trump, oh, he's ridiculous, this and that. But then also like, but and she was like, oh, this Haitian rhetoric is bad.
Yeah.
But also, 60,000 people in a city and put 20,000 people there, then there's going to cause some problems. And like she'd go back and forth between the issues. She'd be like, I'm conservative, and then she went like, but I'm voting liberal. Like she was like, act like we're in the Bay Area, California. You don't have to whisper.
Yeah. Right. It's like
But like people have been talking about this.
yeah.
There was like a secret Trump vote in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Like the silence. What was it?
Like
There
a
was
silent vote.
yeah,
What are we talking about?
there was like a whole phrase. It was like the Nixon era had the same thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, I feel like that's the same way with Kamala Harris. I feel like a lot of people are like not openly admitting that they're gonna vote for her. They will, but there's a larger group of people, the secret Kamala vote, because
Secret
people are
Kamala
just
vote. I've
yeah.
never heard that one.
No, it is, and they're basically like it's better for the Republican Party to just put Trumpism behind now, here and now. They're like long termists. They legitimately like it's better. There's not
Oh
anybody.
yeah, put them down right now by just getting
Yeah,
them out.
instead of another 4 years of a Trump presidency trying to deal with
Yeah.
him, they think it would be easier to just swallow. Kamala Harris is at least like controlled, or they think she's a controlled politician or whatever. But she's at least
It does
controlled by
come
the
up.
same system.
She does look like a very controlled politician. I mean, for me with her, it's just I don't think people. How do I explain? I think she's likable. I don't think she's charismatic.
I think she's charismatic. I think she's likable. I don't think that she is relatable.
Maybe you know what? That's a good analysis. I will go with that one. I think that's a great analysis.
Yeah.
I don't think she's relatable, and I find that Trump. The reason why you will vote for her is because you just don't like Trump. It's just like, and I think that he turns off 65% of the country, and like he has his 35% that he's always going to get. But
And it's also of registered voters, which has always been my point. Is like if we really got everybody who didn't like Trump, everybody in the country who
yeah,
voted,
hmm
it would be 60-30, 65-35. Like we would obliterate the Republicans, but some people are just
yeah,
like voting.
exactly. Sorry, did my phone
No
go off?
worries. And
Yeah,
it's in states like Florida, states like trying to think of what a Republican version of like Minnesota would be, where they're like, oh, our Iowa or something like that. Like there's plenty of liberal people who are just like, we go red every year, we go blue every year, who just don't show up to vote because that's a practical thing to do. Because like
hmm
your vote's only worth 1 in 100,000 or 1 million or whatever. So
yeah,
it's at the end of the day, it's so easy to not vote, and that's why Republicans are running on that. Essentially, it's like I don't know. Democrats want to make it easier to vote. Republicans want to make it harder to vote. That's always how it's been. I'm
yeah.
sure
Because
we.
when
No, go ahead.
good, I was saying because when Democrats go out to vote, we win every single election.
Hmm.
And they know that, and they choose not, and that's why they like. That's why they're always trying to suppress the vote.
Yeah, and Democrats always. That's why my problem with Democrats is they always run on the undecided vote.
Yeah,
Oh, how do we swing the undecided vote? Even Kamala Harris has shifted right in her rhetoric during this campaign. That's not the people that you need to win. That's not. You need to win the people who are not turning out to vote. You need to be
well, yeah,
passion. You need to have passion. You need to give a vision of something new, something to separate yourself from foreign politicians, something that makes people who have the millions of people who could vote and would vote for liberals would actually be like, oh, this person might actually do something different. Instead, since they're going after the undecided voters
Yeah.
and the people who don't know whether or not they'll vote are like, all these things she's promising. She was the vice president through, she could have. Why couldn't she do it then? Do this and that, even though we all know the vice president has no power.
They have
But
nothing.
but she's not like navigating that rhetoric at all, which is actually one of the main talking points against her. Is like,
Yeah.
oh, you were a part of this administration that we didn't like. She could
Yeah.
easily talk. I mean, it would not be easy actually, because it's hard to navigate talking about your boss versus talking about
What you're
things you
gonna do
don't
different?
like and you do like and things you do differently. That's hard to navigate.
Yeah, that is because you can't
So
really crap on your boss like that
no,
because
but,
it would.
but you have to.
You gotta serve people like, hey, what makes me different? Like, am I just voting for Joe Biden for the next 4 years?
Yeah,
And people don't like voting for that. They rather vote, even though we know that's what it's going to be, another
yeah.
administration. But
Essentially,
we don't want to know that, huh?
well, no, essentially, yeah. But they obviously don't want her to repeat his weaknesses,
Of course,
like
no.
foreign policy.
Well, I don't understand if Joe Biden is weak on foreign policy. Uh, I hope no one has the expectation that Vice President Harris is going to do better, because
I
I
don't.
mean, Joe
Joe
Biden
Biden
is.
was Joe
Huh?
Biden was such a mixed bag on foreign policy. That's the thing.
I don't know, man. I think Joe Biden, yeah, like, granted, I think Ukraine was the right call,
I agree.
and
Pretty
I
much
think
anything with Ukraine.
yeah, and I think Israel is the right call.
In which way?
Um, in the initial attack,
Yeah,
supporting
sure,
Israel.
sure.
Now, what he's done is blunder these things like that. I'll give you,
Yeah.
but it was the right call to get involved. Um,
I do think, in the initial terrorist attack at your allies, if they sent them money, I wouldn't support it from the first jump. But like I understand it,
yeah,
it seems
exactly,
defensive. But then they continued and continued to send money to what was no longer a defensive war. It was an
exactly.
offensive blockade, essentially. And we just kept funding and starving people and blowing up buildings and hospitals with children in them. And that is where he just didn't have any strength left. And that's Biden's weakness, is that he doesn't have a perceived strength. That is one of the things where Trump would usually be wrong about the narrative or the reason behind what he's saying, but in some way he's not wrong
Yeah,
about, oh, if Putin was in charge or if I was in charge, this and that. It's not that if Trump was in charge that different foreign policy decisions would have been made by foreign leaders. It's more that Biden is perceived as weak, not that Trump is perceived as strong. It's that
yeah.
Biden, people do feel like they can control him a little bit and manipulate him and do this and that while
But
he's
I
in.
feel like you can do that with Trump. I mean, I think,
No, I agree with both.
yeah, Vice President Harris did it. She actually broke that down pretty good of who Trump is.
Yeah.
Was it her?
She said
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
foreign leaders are laughing.
yeah. The foreign leaders are laughing at you because they
Yeah.
know all they have to do is tell you a little this, tell you a
Yeah.
little that. Your campaign, your rallies are so big, and you give them whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you consider it a joke.
No, definitely.
And that's what I mean. I was like, yeah, yeah. So she pegged them. That's 100%. Anyone that I've never met Trump, but I've been around people like that. You tell them one or two things about themselves, and then next thing you know, they can go for hours talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they're like, I like you. And I don't even know why I like you. Well,
Yeah.
because you were talking about yourself the whole time.
Yeah. They just listen,
You
you
just
know,
listened.
gives
And
the idea of agreements.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, and she's right. She's spot on. That's how you deal with Trump. You just listen, tell him how great he is, and you get whatever you want. And so, yeah, I think that was a pretty good job on her part. Like I said, she's a prosecutor. She
I think
knows.
she's some tremendous talking points like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's a prosecutor, so she knows how to size people up and figure out what their weak points is. And and she, like I said, she played her cards well because that could have gone as, I mean, you want to talk about getting a passing grade, like a excellent grade. That was an
Yeah,
excellent score on her part.
I'd give her
I
an
mean,
A minus. You know,
I give her A minus. I think the debate sucked, but that's only be honestly because
I
it's
thought it was
not.
a great debate.
No, I thought the debate sucked. I thought that she did. She got an A. Trump
Yeah,
obviously got an F,
but
but
that is a great debate.
which makes it a C, an average
Yeah,
debate.
no, you don't want Trump to do good.
No,
It
no, no. I
it's
don't. No,
such
it's
a
not that I
great.
want Trump to get done.
No, I get it. You're saying it wasn't like a competitive debate.
Yeah, I thought there
Yeah,
would be like, but I don't think there's the competitive debate. Trump, you're never going to compete. I'm sorry, never going to be able to debate him when it comes to policy because he just doesn't
yeah,
know anything. Like
but
he
he
even admitted to it. He was like, "I don't have policies right now. I'm still figuring it out." And we're like, "You're
that
still."
was such a bad line.
Just like, bro, you've been in office for 12 years, or been running for office and been in office for 12 years. You're still trying to figure out what you want to do. That's
No, it
it's
was ridiculous. He was talking about healthcare policy, and he's been running against Obamacare for the last 8 years. It's horrible. It's putting people. Oh, people are so poor. It's the worst thing they could have done. Socialism.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, they're asking him about Obamacare. He's like, if you have a plan, then good. If it's a good plan, then we use it. But until then, we're gonna keep Obamacare. And basically, he's like, and we're gonna run it as good as you can run it. And if I find it, and if I come up with a better idea, great, we're gonna go with that. And they're like, do you have any ideas? He's like, I have. He's like, do you have a plan? He's like, I have concepts of a plan. He lied the entire debate, but he couldn't even lie and say that he had a plan. Like,
yeah. It's like a concept of one, a concept.
he's like, well, I'm not president now. So like he did the
It's
thing
like,
where it's like that one scene from The Office where they're like, oh, I've a 10-point plan to fix this office in a job interview. And they're like, can you tell us the plan? He's like, well, if you hire me, then I can tell you the plan. It's like, no, like Trump's
yeah,
doing the thing. He's like, oh, if you make me president, then you'll hear my healthcare plan. Till
you
then,
totally
it's
hear
like,
at that point. It's like, yeah, that was like a really bad, really. I was like, man, dude, you. I can tell you took this as a joke.
yeah, I feel like even conservatives would have not like they could tell that he lost that moment. Like you can't say that you don't have a healthcare plan, even though no Republicans understand healthcare or have healthcare plans. Like no
Yeah,
conservative voters like this is what we should do in healthcare. They just say we're spending too much on Medicaid, all this stuff, because they don't think we should do anything. They think
yeah,
it's up to each individual person to take care of their own healthcare costs and all this stuff, regardless of how the healthcare companies want to charge them or tell them what to pay or what to do, because at the end of the day your healthcare decisions are not just decided by you, they're decided by insurance companies,
yeah.
and that's not really very free.
It's not free at all. And the fact that he knows that, and he's been running for at least 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah,
It as president and running for president, it's like you told me you haven't had a health plan in 10 years. So what are you gonna really do when you're in there? Mass deportation.
yeah.
Great. So after you deported everybody, what do you do after that? All these American jobs are gonna come back.
No,
So
literally it's their solution to everything. It's
yeah,
like,
we're just gonna deport, and you're like, okay, and what's after? Because once you ship off everybody, well, according to your immigration plan, second American citizens who are born in other countries, and
yeah,
send them back, and then send back Mexicans, and then send back Haitians and Cubans and all these people back. Now you've dismantled the whole workforce. Now
yeah.
tell me what you're gonna do to bring
it's
jobs back.
it's the most brain dead policy position imaginable. Like let's move, yeah, sure, let's move past the idea of how we're going to deport 13 million people, mass roundups, house to house, the entire National Guard, the entire US military going house to house, rounding up children, adults, and putting them on a train, putting them on a plane. What's your idea for this, first of all? And let's move past that. You just eliminated 13 million jobs in the US. You just, oh, that's going to free up everything. Now all the poor high school dropouts that are voting for Trump that lost their jobs, the immigrants can jump into the workforce. Yeah, finally. It's such a myth in general that like there's just some like homeless veteran Republican who's just waiting for the immigrants to leave so he can finally get offered the job that they're withholding from him that they're giving to
All
an
right,
immigrant.
it's a job. We're gonna
If
give the
you can't
lazy
get
guy
a
that
job,
job
you can't
because
get a job.
yeah, we're gonna give that lazy guy the job because all the workers that could actually do the job are been deported. Let's
Yeah.
go get him a job
They're
so
like,
the
all
job
right, I
doesn't.
guess we'll give it to him.
Yeah, look at the guy. He's not gonna do the job, but he has a job.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, that's the whole logic there, and it's like okay, sure, you do mass deportation, and you get all these people who don't want to work a job, like, and it's so idiotic. He doesn't even talk about the unemployment rate. It's like, what are you talking about? People, the unemployment rate is the lowest it's ever. Well, I'm not saying it's the lowest it's ever been, but it's really low.
Yeah. It's
And
lowest
it's
it's
like,
been in this era of capitalism.
yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? You're gonna send all these people to do what? Because the people you're talking about deporting are people who work the manual labor jobs, the ones that you so called black jobs. Those are manual labor, and you're replacing them.
Yeah.
How many Americans are gonna go out and go pick farms? I don't know any
Yeah.
Americans who do that. How many Americans is are gonna go out and do and cut grass? How many Americans and I don't want to just classify jobs. There are immigrants
Yeah.
who are computer programmers and computer science majors
Exactly.
or computer works for Google. You're gonna deport those people, and what happens? It's like it's to me, it's a very
You know what it
Nazism
is? It's
propaganda.
it's
Yeah, go
it's DEI for white people.
ahead.
It's you can't get the
Yeah,
job, and the only problem with this worker is that they aren't, a white American. It's not even that they're not American. They wouldn't care if it was a Swedish technician or Swedish, internet, whatever. If they're an immigrant, they don't care. It's that they're a person
yeah,
of color, and the problem is
exactly.
that they don't like the idea that people of color can have equal access to good paying jobs in this country. And
Yeah,
you know what I mean? When they feel like they are suffering, so and they need to pin it on somebody else. They can't pin it on somebody that they perceive as their peer, because that just makes
yeah.
them feel like a failure. Oh, this person I went to high school with is doing better than me. I'm not a failure. They just didn't get you know
They got
affected
DEI.
by the immigration crisis.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
that's so true. It's like I was telling that to Jenny the other day. I was talking to her, and it's like, I think the Trump movement is all about people. Certain people want us to go back to the 1950s,
Yeah,
where your work ethic didn't matter,
yeah,
and the color of your skin ultimately determined how far you got. And
yeah.
those to me are lazy people.
No, I agree.
It's like it's just what it is. It's like they're lazy. They
And the
don't
thing
want to
that they're
work.
ultimately craving is economic security too. It's not
They are,
even racial
but with
supremacy.
no. But here's the thing:
Yeah,
they're wanting economic security with no work attached to it.
yeah, exactly.
Let's be honest. I mean, we're gonna talk about manufacturing. You want to talk about automobiles and they're shipping the jobs. That's been happening for over since NAFTA.
Hmm.
NAFTA has been enacted since I want to say what 96, 95.
Around that time.
Yeah, 96, 95. That is over 30 years ago. And we're still talking about manufacturing jobs. Like we haven't seen this coming for the last 30 years. And you're telling me that all of a sudden, oh, Trump is going to bring all these manufacturing jobs. What that's been in decline for the last 30 years. Matter of fact,
Yeah. Why would you want to work in manufacturing in this day and age?
yeah, it's like, and then you're going to get killed with AI who's coming,
Yeah.
and that's going to kill more jobs. And then you're going to talking about, but yeah, you're talking about deporting mass immigrants. Like that's the problem.
Yeah, they don't
It's like,
understand comparative advantage in economics, where like we're all better off if some people do some jobs and some people do different jobs based on skill set, based on economic necessity in a certain area. Like that's why
yeah,
we have a global trade system where we buy bananas from people that grow bananas, and that we buy microchips from countries that, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there's reasons why we do certain things. We don't need to regress because you were more successful in the 90s. You know what I mean? It doesn't make
yeah.
any sense. It's really just like, oh man, I had a point too. Um, damn, I lost it. Whatever, we'll move forward.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, man, it's like I like that DEI for whites, but I mean, I don't even think it's white. I want to lump certain black groups who are
Yeah,
Trump
that's true.
supporters.
Yeah,
Some
it's
there's
just
Latinos.
disenfranchised people.
Yeah, they're just lazy. There's Latino Trump supporters. Like I said this to Jenny, and I'm gonna repeat it.
Ooh, I remember my point, but go ahead.
You want to go? I'll write
No, no,
mine
go ahead.
down.
Go ahead.
Okay, if you're a rich person and you're a Republican and you're a Trump supporter, I get you.
Yeah,
I don't get the Trump supporter who is poor.
yeah,
That does
I
not
do,
make
and
any
I
sense to
just
me.
remember why. It's because they we all know Republicans project everything, right?
Yeah,
Republicans project, oh, these welfare queens, oh, they're living off the state, they don't work hard, do anything. All we know about immigrants is that they're hardest working people. They work 60, 70, 100 hours a week. They work nonstop at these jobs. They are hustling. While these people that are bitching and complaining about getting minimum wage, having no skills, working, 40 hours, 35 hours a week, they could do this or that. But they're at the end of the day, they want to be the welfare queens.
yeah,
They are the ones that want to live off of their rich parents that they grew up under, but now they're not successful. They don't understand work ethic.
yeah,
They think that these people are coming in and live getting what they think they deserve. They think they
yeah,
deserve to coast by because of their whiteness, and that's why they see these people who are working hard and being successful because they're working hard, and they just pin it on like, oh, they're immigrants, they're it's their race, they're handed that because they
exactly.
want to be the ones being handed things for free.
Yeah, no,
Because that's how
100.
things were all the way up until the workforce for rich white neighborhoods.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think that's what I mean. I would say to cap that conversation is that I think Jenny. Well, me and Jenny was talking. I said this like, this is the last one song.
Yeah,
This is it. This is like once Trump loses in November, it's over.
yeah,
Like that's never coming back again.
and
And
he
the
just faces his criminal trials, and
racist criminal trials and no populist. There will be another populist that rise in
oh, for
America,
sure.
but not in that way.
I think that they will try Trumpism
Yeah,
one more time, and I think they'll have to fail without Trump to realize it. Like I don't think it necessarily dies when Trump dies, but it begins to die. There's no revival process after that. I think Trump will be out of the scene, and they'll tap Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy, this new era of populism, but they're like, oh, but they're a person of color and they're Republicans. But
yeah,
they're still, you know what I mean? This new era of the Republican Party we're starting to see. I think they're going to stick with that for a little bit, but once
hmm
they lose everything, they lose the establishment Republicans to Democrats too because they're, faux populism. You know what I mean? Russian fueled, funded propaganda. All this sort of stuff is going to die.
yeah,
Absolutely. But as stubborn as we've seen Republicans be, they're gonna drag it out as long as they can.
yeah. Keep it going,
Yeah.
and don't. That's just who they are. They're conservatives for a reason. They move slow.
Yeah. Or backwards.
That's true. That's their whole goal there. Oh man, speaking of slow, interest rates look has gone down. It looks like 50. I mean, I don't know what's the big hoopla, but everyone in business is making a big deal about it. Um, Politically, I mean, does it help Vice President Harris that interest
No.
rates went down?
Republicans don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to help anything. I still see housing is outrageous.
They
Rentals are
still think
still
we have
like
inflation. Republicans still think we are suffering from inflation. I mean, we are
no,
suffering from costs and wages that didn't match the costs. But at the end of the day, inflation stopped years ago, or at least I mean, we're constantly the price. It's constantly inflating, but an inflation above the Fed's recommended level.
yeah,
We're supposed to be between 2 to 4% inflation rate, and we're at like 2.9.
Yeah.
and we have been for a stable rate for a while. The Dow Jones hit its all-time highest level like last week,
Yeah.
but
So what do
Republicans
you think?
never know.
So do you think this price gouging going on?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know the rental rates
That's
now.
what most of inflation is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, I look at the rental rates here in Miami. They're going for $3, 4, $5,000,
Yeah.
like 1,700 square foot houses, and I'm like, is that inflation or is that price gouging?
Well, all right.
It seems
Half.
like price gouging to me.
I won't say half, but one side of inflation is, you know, the perception of inflation and price gouging. We have inflation, so we have an
Yeah.
excuse to raise our prices, and that's what a
Exactly.
lot of you see in this, and that it's price gouging because it's not directly correlated to the ways that we can track inflation. Which inflation doesn't happen when we spend money.
Mhm.
Inflation happens when people have more money to spend.
Exactly.
Inflation happens with increased purchasing power. If you have more money to spend on rent, then the rent will go up
Yeah,
across the
and
board.
right now, yeah,
But
right
if
now people are saying they don't have any money.
people have more money to spend on things, it's not like toothpaste plastic is going to go up automatically or whatever. You know what I mean? If there's no increased demand for this product, then it's not going to increase the price. So when people have more money and they spend it on debt, then there's no increase. There's no inflation. When
Yeah,
people are spending their own money on debt, there's no inflation because they don't have more money as a result, and they're not spending in an area that can raise prices. So
yeah,
spending
exactly.
directly correlated, or is it's directly inflation is directly correlated to consumer spending, not
Yeah,
government spending, and that's why Republicans will never understand
yeah.
because it's not in their interest to do so.
Well, yeah, it's not an interest to say it.
Yeah,
Just look at follow the stocks, follow their stocks. You know, take out these senators, House of Republican, look at their stocks, and that's what they
yeah,
really believe.
yeah, exactly.
You know, definitely not. So other news here, we got the Lebanon bomb. Have you heard about these bombings with
I
the
heard a
beaches?
little bit about this. I heard people making like dumb jokes, memes, and then you look into it actually, and it's kind of terrifying. That
It is
what
like
was it? 100 pagers or something blew up in Lebanon,
yeah,
presumably a product of the IDF, right?
yeah. I mean, it's like they take these pages for people, and they're blowing them up in the people's pockets, and it's like then it's like for the person nearby, obviously they're affected by it because it's a bomb.
Yeah,
But I'm like, that's insane that they're able to do that to a pager.
yeah. It is wild. It's
Yeah,
terrifying, like how you can hack technology in a way, and like the fact
exactly.
that is at the level of like children's heads in your
Yeah,
pocket on your phone. They don't care about civilians. They don't care. Stop pretending that they care about some sort of retribution against Hamas or whatever. This is a violent, bloody. They want to clear the area of anybody that's not in Israeli or part of the Jewish religion because they are supremacists.
yeah,
At the end of the day, they are just like the Trump supporters. They are trying to get rid of the invaders, the aggressors, the people that are on their natural God-given right of their land. That's what they think. So
yeah,
this is a holy war, just like in the Crusades to them. This is their land, and they don't. These are also they think they're killing Nazis because 100% of people in Palestine are Hamas supporters. Apparently, you know what I mean?
yeah,
They're doing this thing where they're looping in an entire ethnic group, and obviously when I say I'm talking about like the people making decisions to kill. I'm not talking about all Israelis or Jewish people. It's literally the people on the top of the IDF,
yeah,
the military leaders who don't care about civilians because it's their job to hammer. You don't blame a hammer for wanting to hit a nail on the top of the head. That's
yeah,
their job, is to kill. But Netanyahu is giving them a green light to do whatever the hell they want,
exactly.
and
And
that's the
so this
problem.
is, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how it's kind of messing with Biden's foreign policy because the reality it's like this has got out of control, and you don't know how to reel it back in.
Hmm.
And now it makes you look incompetent because you can't reel it back in. You know, like the
Yeah,
one hand, the Jewish community is the Democrats' biggest donors,
yeah,
so you don't want to upset them. But in the second hand, it's like they're literally murdering and genociding people.
yeah,
We have to turn the other cheek, like nothing's happening. So it's one of those things. Like I know what Biden's doing in terms of why he's taking the positions he's taking,
yeah.
but then again, it makes you look weak
There is
because
a bigger cost at the end
there
of
is a bigger cost. And so it's one of those things where it's like it makes him look bad foreign policy wise, but I understand why he looks bad.
maybe I'm the genuinely deluded Harris supporter because I actually believe that she cares about this issue and cares
Yeah,
about the Palestinians. It just annoys me when I see, the super pro-Palestine, leftists on Twitter attacking Harris as if she has not done enough. I mean, she's a vice president. She can't do anything, first of all.
yeah,
She has said she supports a ceasefire. She supports a two-state solution. She supports like ending the bombs and everything right now. She supports Israel and their geopolitical engagement with Iran and all these others. She supports you know ending Hamas. All the things she supports the correct things publicly, but like she won't what publicly attack the person who made her vice president. She won't attack Biden. She won't
mm,
like for not being sufficient. Like she what won't publicly attack Anthony Blinken. What do you
yeah,
want? What are we expecting from her on this issue before this election that uh, you know that we can realistically expect to happen? She's not going to promise to cut off all aid to Israel, when Israel is one of our biggest allies,
yeah,
is something I would support. But in the midst of a giant election where Trump would literally, if Trump won over this slim margin of her deciding to be a little bit more outspoken on the issue, if that swayed the election and Trump won, Trump would give a green light to like have mass executions of Palestinians, like completely clear out the area. There's no Palestinian state. Start a full blown war with Iran. This is the potential, the strategy she's playing right now. You don't understand that, like, we're talking about a geopolitical. How she balances being pro or anti-Israel actually
mm,
could lead to whether or not Palestinians live or die. Like being too pro-Palestinian could actually kill more Palestinians. You understand that, right?
yeah,
So you don't understand the danger of political rhetoric, of how teeter-tottery it could be sometimes when you're running on the main stage, trying to
yeah.
impress 70 million people at least. You know what I mean? The people you expect to vote for you. So
It's
I think
tough.
that she's done a great job on the issue so far in her
Yeah,
messaging and sort of pleasing both groups, even though obviously nobody's going to be 100% pleased in either side.
yeah, of course not. But yeah, you're right. I think she's doing a good mess. She's doing the best job she possibly can. At the end of the day, it's not really our problem, but we've adopted it because they're our allies,
Yeah.
and you
It's
can't really
become
take a
our
position.
problem because we funded it, but it wasn't inherently our problem.
It was inherently our problem, and we're trying to find a way to end it.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously, I understand it was a position where you know they attacked us. We can't sit idly by and let someone attack our country. And I
Yeah.
understand, the position with I keep saying Hezbollah, but that's not who the group I'm thinking of. The group to the south,
Oh,
the Palestinian people. Sorry, the Palestinians. Um, those they feel like, well, okay, fine, you've got your retribution. Now you're just killing us.
yeah. And they
You
moved
know?
from the Gaza to the West Bank too.
Yeah, they're killing them and they're taking their territory. So that to
Gaza
me is
is not, or sorry, Hamas is not in the West Bank. Hamas is the quote
the
unquote
southern
governing
part.
authority of Gaza. The Palestinian Authority is completely separate from Hamas, and they are the governing authority per se of West Bank. Completely separate. The only thing
Okay,
they have in
right. So
common
you have
is
Hezbollah. Let's break this down. You have Hezbollah in the north.
in
You
Lebanon.
have, yeah, and, well, yeah, Lebanon, the southern part of Lebanon. They're in the
Yeah.
southern part, and then you have Hamas to the south.
Well, do you know why Lebanon is so angry at Israel, right? I mean, Trump liberated Golan Heights, or not liberated, whatever. Trump
Yeah.
gave Israel a disputed territory between, he just handed over just like he would, Gaza.
Well,
And
he did
now,
that with Jerusalem.
Lebanon's mad about it. Shock, shock. They keep poking all the other countries in the Middle East, and then they're making Israel less safe
Well,
overall.
yeah, because like they're being surrounded. I mean, Palestine isn't. Well, Palestine is the people.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're saying that Palestine was only in the West Bank, but they're in
No, no, no,
Hamas
no.
territory.
Hamas is only in Gaza. The Palestinian Authority, which is a different governing group.
Oh, you're talking about the governing group. Okay, it's in the West
Uh,
Bank, but there's
Hamas
Palestinian
isn't
people
even
there.
in the West Bank. So why are they in the West Bank?
Uh, that's a good. It's a question. That's something you have to have Netanyahu.
It,
Um,
it's because
I think
we know,
everyone.
we know why they are.
Yeah, we know
Trying
it's
to
about
push out
taking territory. That's all they're
ethnic
doing.
cleansing.
Yeah, yeah, man. So that we'll talk about that war again next week. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I mean,
it's a weekly thing, right?
it's an ongoing thing, but it's like I think a lot of people have been worried um,
Yeah,
that it could be the defining moment of this election. Like if
yeah.
people have been talking about if Israel invades Lebanon or starts a war with Iran in the next month prior to this election, how that would affect Biden's perception, Harris's perception, all these sort of things. Like this
Well, it
could
would
be,
hurt. It would hurt Vice President Harris.
yeah,
It would
which
hurt
is
her tremendously if a war breaks out.
why it is a very important issue
Yeah, it is
for
extremely important.
us. We both just stopped talking.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking like in that scenario, it's like that's really bad. Just like
Yeah,
because I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think people perceive her as a military type president.
I think depends on it depends on the people. What do you mean by that? Do you mean military as in like she would be an effective military leader, or since she's militaristic in her governing agenda? You know what I mean?
I don't think she's militaristic, and I think Trump tries to label her as that.
Yes, that's where I'm leaning
Yeah, but I
towards.
don't think she's that militaristic. I
Trump
think,
has surrounded himself with people like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, who are the
yeah,
faux anti-war isolationist type, who like to.
yeah,
He's a warmonger. She's a war hawk.
yeah, they
You know
say
what I mean?
that, but there's no evidence of that. It's like I don't know how the problem with her being a military kind of commander. Not saying she's not capable, but she doesn't have much foreign policy experience. She
Except
just
for being the
doesn't.
vice president, which is a lot of foreign policy experience, because she went to basically what the vice president does is
She's
they do
having,
kind of
but
act as a form of diplomat.
she hasn't been to Europe.
I think she has, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know which
Mm.
country specifically she's been to, but
Yeah,
they do sort of act as a foreign diplomat.
yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, of course she's been doing it now, but
yeah,
it's like, for example, it's like when Obama took over for George Bush, people wanted that war to end, and he wasn't considered a military president, so he didn't need that much foreign policy experience. What he really needed to do was wind down the war.
when George Bush actually campaigned on, bring ending the war at that time, and like he campaigned on an anti-war rhetoric back in 2000. And then 9/11 happened, and everything
Oh
changed.
yeah, 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 yeah. What I'm talking about was Obama took over, and we were already in that
Oh,
war
and
for
it's the
about
same deal.
six,
It's the
7 years.
same deal
Yeah,
with Obama. You
yeah,
campaign anti-war, and then you get in there and realize that you can't just pull troops out of an area with people's lives in line. Even
yeah.
if you
You
want
can't.
to end war, you have to do it much more strategically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't just pull them out. I was just saying more so, not that you just pull them out, but people voted for them because they knew they were trying to end the war, uh, wherever in whatever capacity. Now I don't know how people vote to because I don't think it's ever happened where we've gone to war in the middle of an election. I've never seen that happen before. I
Yeah,
don't
like a
think.
war start during the election season. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
think
I've
we
never
know
seen.
that that would just harm whoever's in power, essentially.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
I really hope that we don't see. I hope we
Well,
just
well,
roll over past the election and then foreign
you deal
policy
with it. You
relatively
deal with it
stable.
then. Yeah, that's true. Kick the can down the road.
Yeah,
But yeah, well, we'll have another week and another day to talk about those issues. I didn't get to a lot of topics that I wanted to get over. We'll probably get over to next week. I wanted to talk about Ukraine and the invasion, see what's going on. I know
yeah,
they invaded Russia. I haven't heard anything since,
yeah. Me either, really.
and
We'll have
there's
to.
been rumors. Yeah, and there's been rumors that they're trying to maybe start the first talks of ceasefiring between Russia and Ukraine.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, so that one I wanted to touch on. We'll probably touch on that next week. And we also have the Diddy allegations.
True.
And the reason why I want to talk about Diddy is not really political, but just a little segue for next week is the way that the justice system is being used in this case is kind of going to what Trump says about the justice system. So I want to kind of dive deep into the justice system and how they're getting away with certain things and how they're doing certain things. So I definitely want to talk about that next week. But yeah, but for today, our show, we've come to the end. So Seth, you have any final words?
No, I mean we're still waiting day by day for polls to come out to really have any sort of indication of the trajectory of this campaign right now because it's still a little bit up in the air. Could swing either direction. Although I feel like it's just shocking that it's this close because there's so much good decision making on Harris's part, and Trump seems
Yeah,
to be shooting himself in the foot every chance he can. So I
yeah,
mean, I'm just waiting for something to really break through.
yeah. And it's one of those things where I think Jenny says this all the time. Trump's just hard to pull.
Yeah,
He's just not. It's hard to the pull. The Trump supporters are just extremely difficult because
yeah,
you don't know who they really are. You don't know where they're coming from, and I think the best strategy is to keep doing what she's doing.
yeah.
And
I mean, she's definitely doing everything she's doing. It's a great decision, but I
yeah,
think I think as you're kind of pointing to, like the most under talked about demographic is the people who aren't the Trump people who vote for Trump. You never really
exactly.
know who the Trump supporters are because
Yeah,
there's a handful, solid quarter of the Trump voters who would probably never admit it in public.
exactly.
So that's something interesting. But we have run out of time. So
Yeah, we'll dive deep next week, guys. We want you. We want you guys to remember to keep imagining more, and we we look forward to talking to you next week.